I call this meeting to order. Effingham County Planning Board meeting of April 9th, 2024. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We're going to open this meeting with a word of prayer. We're going to follow the prayer with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'd like to ask that everyone who can, please stand with us for both. I ask Mr. Ryan Thompson to open us.
Good evening. Bow your head, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this country and county that we live in the great state of Georgia. We're able to come before you tonight and discuss the happenings that are happening in our community and discuss them cordially and come to good decisions. Please give us all wisdom and guidance and know that we're all here for a common goal. Also, please, Lord, be with those that are protecting us both domestically and abroad. And finally, thank you so much for your risen Son that we just celebrated on this past Easter Sunday. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. So our agenda, are there any changes that need to be made?
Yes, sir. Item 12 is postponed. And we would like to move item 14 to item 11.
Move item 14 to item 11.
Yes.
What will become of 11?
11 will be 12.
Yes, correct.
So item 14. Remind me when we get there.
Yes.
Any additional changes?
No, sir.
Heard the changes, any discussion? Call for a motion to approve this agenda with the noted changes.
I make a motion to approve with noted changes.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Aye.
Second, Mr. Higgins. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Minutes from March 12th. That was our zoning meeting. Any discussion on these minutes? Call for a motion to approve these minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
No, second.
Second, Mr. Thompson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So on February 13th, we had a workshop. Any discussion on those minutes? Call for a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So we have one item of old business, and then we'll move directly into our new business portion. So all items presented tonight will be presented again at our Board of Commissioners meeting. Do we have a date on that?
Yes, sir. So our Board of Commissioners meeting is
May 21st.
May 21st. Thank
May
you.
21st. So all items heard tonight as a public hearing will move forward to the Commissioners meeting. That is May 21st. Items that are approved as well as denied will move forward to the Commissioners. I'd like to ask that anyone who wishes to speak, please speak into the microphone when it's your turn. If you will wait until the item of your concern is called, we will give the applicant a chance to come forward first, and then the applicant will be followed by anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against the request. We'd like to ask that all comments be made into the microphone, that you would state your name for the record as well as sign your name for the record. So anything further at this time?
Mr. Chair, you may want to announce for those that just came in about number 12.
Yeah, sorry for those that came in. Item number 12, which is Robert McCorkle III is agent for the Coopers requesting to rezone 280.5 acres from AR1 to I1 to allow for warehousing and logistics located on Old River Road. That's the first district. That item has been postponed. It will not be heard tonight. We're sorry if anyone made the trip. The sign will be removed. Steve, and you said everyone would be notified again before it's back on the agenda?
Yes.
So there will be another notification process to where everyone hopefully is notified whenever it is back on the agenda. So under old business, so public hearing for Sue Anderson as agent for SB Homes LLC requesting to rezone 6.982 acres from AR1 to R1 to allow for an addition to residential lots located on Old River Road. This is the third district. Ms. Chelsea?
Yes, sir. So at our last meeting, we brought forward to you the 5.272 acres that the applicant was requesting to rezone to R1. This is that second piece. Unfortunately, there was that mix-up advertising and the sign, so this is just that second piece that they would also like to rezone to the R1. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any discussion from the board at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? All right. If there's no discussion from the board, I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion for approval and a second. Mr. Thompson, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Moving on to new business. It's a public hearing for Tim Jones, requests a conditional use to allow for a private and public event venue in AR1 located at 2272 Noel C. Conaway Road, 2nd District. Ms. Chelsea?
Yes, sir. So this parcel has approximately 208 feet of frontage along Noel C. Conaway. Again, the applicant is requesting that conditional use to operate a private and public event venue. Again, that's within the AR1 zoning district. No parking will take place along Noel C. Conaway Road per the applicant, but that is also a condition for the conditional use as well. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion at this time? Is there anyone who wishes to speak on behalf, Mr. Jones, or anyone, or is there a representative? Is there anyone who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Discussion from the board?
So that's their site plan that they provide?
Yes, sir.
And when we say there's no parking along Noel Conaway, you mean on the right-of-way or facing
Right,
it?
correct. Along the right-of-way of
Within the
Highway
right-of-way,
30.
they can't park inside the right-of-way.
Right, they can only have it within their site, not on the right-of-way of the.
There's a rather large brick wall along the front of it, more or less, too. It's gonna hinder parking.
Yeah, when I first heard it, I thought it meant no parking facing the right-of-way, and I see parking facing the right-of-way as well.
So there's already structures on this property?
It looks like a graveyard.
Yes,
there.
sir. So that the church building, the wood church building that you see on their site plan, that is renovated and will be used for the event venue.
I got it, right copy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? All right, if there's no discussion, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval with staff recommendation.
Have a motion for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you to the gentlemen. If you would like to, or staff can keep them.
You can get these and use them for the next week.
Yeah. Item 2 is a public hearing for Catherine Shinogle, requests a conditional use for a rural business for a hair salon located at 475 Sharehouse Road. This is the 2nd District. Ms. Chelsea?
Yes, sir. So at the November
Thank
14th,
you, sir.
2023 Planning Board meeting, Ms. Shinogle was approved for a residential business, and one of those conditions was that her business take place within the actual residence. So she has now come before us to ask to move that business to her accessory structure, and to do that, she will need the rural business. She will, per her application, she will only have approximately 3 to 4 clients a day, and the days of operation are Wednesday through Saturday. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
Chelsea, what's the square feet requirement for a rural business?
I think 1,000,
1,000?
I think.
Let me double check for you.
All right. Is there a representative to speak on behalf of Ms. Shinogle?
Pretty much what Chelsea said
Can
over
I
there.
get you to, can I get you to
Oh.
state your name, please?
Katie Shinagle, or Catherine Shinagle.
Thank you.
We have completed construction on a little she shed. We have it set up as a single-person salon. I would just see about 3 or 4 people a day, 4 days a week. We have parking in our driveway, and I've known my clients for years. I wouldn't have like any strangers coming on the property or anything like that.
So what's the difference in this proposal than what the last time we heard it?
It's a separate structure from my home. We have built like a little she shed, so it's just to the side in the backyard.
She was a residential business, so she was in the home.
Okay, so now it's a completely different technical use. Now we're a rural business as opposed to a residential business.
She took it out of the house and put it in this building.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, that is 1,000 square feet.
And you're under that?
Yes, it's about 290 square feet,
Okay. So you'll be the only,
just me.
just you?
Does it have restroom facilities in that, Miss
It does.
Miss Catherine? I don't know,
I know.
Shinagle?
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes, sir.
So it's hooked to the septic and,
Yes, we just completed all that. We actually had to put in like a whole new septic system and everything's approved with the health department.
good. Very good.
All right.
Any more questions?
Any further questions this time? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Tillman. Retired from the state of Georgia, 30 years of state law enforcement, firearms instructor, paramedic, and firefighter. I live across the street from the Shinogles. Very fine people, very clean, and I don't think that's a she shed. That thing is built as good as this house is. It's a really clean facility, and it's not going to be a problem where we're at. I live directly across the street. I've watched them construct this thing from morning, getting my coffee, to the time I go to bed. And they're a great Christian family, and I'm all American, man. Build your own business and support yourself, and not stand by and let the government do it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
He didn't sign in.
He stated his name. You got him. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? We did have one email,
Yes, sir.
I believe.
You can read it in if you want to, yeah.
I mean, just for the
Please. Yeah.
for the record. Mr. Joshua Jameson, could not attend, but he does have a high interest in what purpose the new building would be serving than what was in the residence, but by my interpretation, he was not in favor of it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for him, but
Yeah.
that's the way the email read. Now, that's why I asked the question about what's different, because I think I was actually the one that asked, was it going to be in the residence? And the answer was yes, the last time.
So, I mean, I think the number of trips per day, the clients, I don't think that changes. It just changes whether you're in the house or in a less than, 1,000 square foot building, outbuilding, is my personal opinion.
But yeah, I just wanted clarification, to be honest. I was a little confused as why it was, why it was back and what was different about the proposal. And the structure that they've built meets any sort of setback requirements and such from the property lines.
All right.
Who's in District 2?
There's no further discussion. I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion for approval with staff recommendation.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you. Item number 3 is a public hearing for Ryan Poitras. His agent for Andy Zoller requests a conditional use to allow for an addition of an abattoir to a proposed butcher shop in AR1 located at 1654 Stillwell Clio Road. This is the 3rd district. Ms. Chelsea?
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting that conditional use to allow for the addition of the abattoir to the proposed butcher shop. The applicant would like to process beef and pork products within Effingham County. I do want to point out that the following conditions that are listed on your staff report have been added. That approval from the Department of Public Health or the Department of Agriculture shall be obtained if applicable. Only 20 animals shall be allowed within the stockade at one time. Hours of operation shall be limited to Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. An outdoor lighting plan shall be submitted to Development Services for review and approval. A life safety plan shall be submitted to the fire inspector for review and approval. The applicant shall obtain and keep in good standing an Effingham County occupational tax certificate, so their business license. A sketch plan shall be approved by the Effingham County Board of Commissioners. All buffers shall adhere to the Effingham County Code of Ordinances. And the requirements set forth in Appendix C, Article 3, Section 3.3, Section 3.30.5.2, and that is for surfacing for all retail sales and services, business services, and professional services shall be waived. And what that means is that they do not have to pave their entire parking lot, because we have seen in other developments that that's not something that we want done.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Questions at this time? Is Mr. Poitras or a representative from Mr. Zoller here?
Good evening. I'm Ryan Poitras from Maxwell Reddick, represent Mr. Andy Zoller, and I'm available for any technical questions or anything you guys may need.
Have any samples?
Not yet, so hopefully soon, though.
So I guess the biggest thing is, I mean, you heard stipulations by staff. I mean, do you have any concerns with any of anything you heard?
Nothing that I've heard thus far. I mean, I wrote down quick as I could, but I know you guys will issue those, so I'll go back to Mr. Andy with those as well.
I see there is a label. This says asphalt pavement, but that's just to the point to cross the county right-of-way or?
Correct, yeah,
inside,
just
so
in the right-of-way
will be
per
improved in
Effingham
county
County
right-of-way.
standards. Then everything else on site besides dumpster pad and then a couple different areas, sidewalk and handicap will be gravel.
Anything further?
So it's going to be a slaughterhouse, basically. You're going to have the animals there, and you're going to euthanize them, and then put them in a butcher shop.
Correct. Yep.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request? Thank you, Mr. Poitras. All right, if there's no further discussion from the board, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional uses with staff recommendations.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item number 4 is a public hearing for Graham Metzger as agent for Alec Metzger. Request a conditional use for a rural business for an auto paint and body business at 721 Mock Road, the 4th District. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting a conditional use to operate an auto paint and body business from an accessory structure located on the property. The applicant did state in their application that the use would be similar to what is existing now for their personal repair work on vehicles for farm machinery. Customers will be Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and by appointment only. Again, that is per their application. The business is, the proposed business is approximately 900 feet from the adjacent residential neighborhood, as you can see on the site plan there. And also approximately 400 feet to 480 feet from all other property lines. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion? Is there anyone who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request?
Good afternoon. I'm Alec Metzger, 721 Mock Road. Graham would be here tonight. He's at college, wrapping up. He's about to graduate, and he's been doing kind of paint and body work as a kind of hobby with his grandfather for 5 or 6 or 7 years now. He's got pretty good at it and wants to start a small business to get started when he graduates. So we've already got a farm shop set up behind our house where he's does some of that work now for his personal hobbies and on our farm equipment. So we're asking for approval. We've got direct access to Mock Road. It'll be a small business, limited to what we've already got. It's well buffered. It's several hundred feet to almost 900 feet to the closest residence that's not related to us. Everything that touches our immediate property is family or property that we own. So be glad to answer any questions.
All right, questions, comments from the board? Thank you, Mr. Metzger. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Thompson, all's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 5 is a public hearing for J.D. Banks and Enterprises Incorporated. Request a variance from ordinance section 5.1.4 to allow for a reduction in required building setbacks located at 126 McClaws Road, zone AR1. It's the 1st District. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So again, the applicant is requesting that variance. The lot is approximately 98 feet wide, and the applicant would like to add an addition to their family home. The addition would place the home 8 feet from the property line. The zoning for this property is AR1, so the side setbacks are 25 feet. So this would place the home 8 feet from the property line, which is why the variance is needed. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any discussion at this time? Is there anyone who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Dee Moncrief. I'm the owner of J.D. Bankston Enterprises. This is my daughter's home. I don't know what alternative number 1 is, so I don't know what.
Approval.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to point out that there is a lane. This is a historical property over in Pinora. There's a 20-foot lane that sits on that side of the property itself that is owned by nobody. We did a title search to see if there was anybody that actually owned it. There isn't. And on the other side of that is owned by Effingham County Board, Effingham Commissioners.
Yes.
Okay.
Effingham Commissioners owns the adjoining adjacent property?
one over. You got a 20-foot lane between me and the commissioners.
I got you.
296A71 is owned by BOC. And this is it's a non-conforming AR1 to begin with.
Okay, I was about to say.
Half of Pinora is.
We have, on the other side of the property, on the other side where you see more room to the right-hand side of that, the house, we needed to put in a septic system that would actually be, I don't know, built in 2024 instead of 1920. So it took up almost all of the side yards. So that's why we're asking for the variance to go straight back. We're trying to make it where my son-in-law is a veteran and they want to purchase the home, and in its current condition, it can't be purchased through VA.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there any questions at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request? If there's no discussion, I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the variance request with any staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Higgins, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 6, a public hearing for D. Moncrief as agent for Sovereign Resources LLC, requested variance from ordinance section 5.1.4 to allow for a reduction in required building setback located at 105 Parkway Drive, zoned I-1, 5th District. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting that variance to allow the reduction in building setbacks, which is separate from buffers. The variance will also allow the owner to avoid the utility easement that is currently on the property. It is a little difficult to see here, but if you can see my cursor, there is a utility easement. There's actually a tower that runs right through this part of the property. So the applicant is asking to put the building over here. They would like to be 5 feet from the property lines, as you can see from the drawing here. The required setback for this building is currently 25 feet, so the variance would be that 20 feet. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
Can we go back to the aerial?
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there already a building on the adjacent property, basically on the property line?
Right here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the buffers for this property and the surrounding properties, they have been eliminated, but that is for buffers, not for building setbacks. I can't at this moment speak to this building and why it is exactly on that property line.
Right, yeah.
But we do want to make sure that this building is not exactly on the property line.
And the adjoining property to the right, that's industrial?
Yes, sir. So here is your zoning map.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chelsea. Any further discussion at this time?
No.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. They were kind enough to put me back to back, so I'm back up here again. Just the points that Chelsea's already made. There was a buffer variance that was already approved when the original site was done. It is surrounded by the same typical, the industrial one. And there's already cement pylons basically placed, so this would not inhibit the parking lot that already exists.
Did you say there was a variance in place already?
For the buffers.
For the
That's
buffers?
what she said.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have that paperwork and have submitted it.
Okay. Any discussion? Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone else wish to speak? Call for a motion.
Motion to approve, staff recommendation.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 7 is a public hearing for Catherine Lee. Request to rezone 3.32 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a new home site located at 180 Saxon Drive. This is the 1st District. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. The applicant, again, is just requesting to rezone to AR2. This is currently a non-conforming AR1 parcel, and because they do wish to subdivide and create that new home site, we do need to bring them into zoning conformance, which would be AR2 zoning. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
So we're looking at parcel A1 and A2.
Yes, sir.
And the adjacent parcels are zoned what?
They are AR1.
But they're not
There we go.
conforming too then, because they're small.
Right, they are non-conforming AR1 parcels.
Got it.
So we're basically just dividing that lot in half.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor or against this request? No discussion. I'll call for a motion.
I make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item number 8 is Dwayne Gilchrist. Request to rezone .494 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for subdivision to create new home sites located on Laurel Circle. This is the first district. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant, again, is requesting to rezone to AR2 to create that new home site. The current parcel, again, is a non-conforming AR1 lot. Here is your zoning map. It is this parcel here, the 302-84, which also encompasses this parcel here as well. Sorry about that. The current parcel is a non-conforming AR1, and by adjusting those property lines, the zoning does need to come into compliance. What you see here is what will be done. As you can see, they are just wishing to make these 2 separate parcels as opposed to one whole parcel that is just split by the road here, if that makes sense. So staff is recommending alternative number 1.
So there'll be an easement to access the second parcel?
So they actually have, this road here that you can see with my cursor. They do have access to that road, and that is what currently splits that parcel right now. They are going to actually plat that split. So it'll be this parcel, and then this one. And because they are less than 5 acres, they do have to be zoned AR2.
Any discussion? Is there anyone who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir. Can I get your name?
Dwayne Gilchrist.
Thank you, sir. Did she pretty much sum it up, Ms. Chelsea?
Yes, she did.
Okay. So basically, like she said, the road will split the 2.
Yes,
parcels.
the road splits the 2 parcels, so there's parking on both sides of the street. And there used to be a house on the rectangular parcel, but it burnt down years ago. And we're just basically wanting to put a mobile home there. We can't do it with the current setbacks. If the setbacks are adjusted to AR2, the home fits in there fine. If they're at AR1, which is 25 feet, it doesn't fit.
All right.
So.
Questions?
Is that actually a road or an easement?
It's a road.
It is? What's
Yeah.
the name of it?
Laurel Circle. It's not much of a road, but it is a road.
Must be county maintained.
No comment.
My bad.
We're working on that.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
I make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Wish for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Smith, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item number 9 is a public hearing for Chris Murphy as agent for Lisa Allen, executor, estate of Ann Tuttle. Request to rezone plus or minus 2 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for subdivision to create new home sites on 6th Street, the first district. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So like the previous applications, the applicant is requesting to rezone to AR2 to create that new home site because this subdivision will create 2 1-acre parcels. It does need to be AR2 due to being below that 5-acre threshold. Staff does recommend alternative number 1. Here is that zoning map for you.
And
so
which piece is it there?
It is this one right here.
Okay, so again, surrounded by non-conforming.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And it's accessed by 6th Street?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Is there anyone who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Chris Murphy. I submitted the application. There's 2 homes on this parcel currently, and what we're just trying to do is separate the homes into 2 separate parcels so that we may sell one of the parcels out of the estate, and we can move the people in one of the homes to the other home and then sell the remaining home. So really, we're just trying to, as she explained perfectly, we're just trying to have that conform to the current usage. But otherwise, the usage will remain the same as it is now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm Melissa Muncher. I own 252 6th Street, which is directly across from there. I just want to make sure that I understand correctly. If what he is saying is true, then I'm fine with it. If that is all they are doing and they are just taking it, subdividing it, selling it, no problem. But if this is going to allow in any way, shape, or form more houses to be put on this property, I am 100% not for this, because I own the whole entire road frontage, so they're already using my property to gain access to theirs, and they've already cut in roads without my permission, even though I've asked them not to. I do not want any further encroachment on my property. That is not okay.
So as of tonight, all they are asking for is to divide it in half to have 2 parcels.
Right.
And,
But is
and if
that
they,
gonna protect me?
if they won't, yes, because if they want to do more than that, then they'll have to come right back through this
Okay.
same process.
That's
and
what
ask-
I'm just making sure I'm very clear. Like, I'm not okay with any more driveways, any more traffic, nothing else. There is way too much going on over there.
You got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Ryan? Yes, sir.
Hi, guys. My name is Bill Boyd. I own 220 6th Street, the land directly behind Miss Muncher's. I just want to say, again, I'm here for pretty much the same thing Miss Muncher is saying. As long as there's going to be no additional structures built on the property, I'm all right with it. But currently, I'm the one that maintains the easement. I have a backhoe, and there's a lot of traffic, and it's quite expensive to bring that thing out and keep that, keep that piece of easement nice. As long as there's not going to be any additional structures or increase in traffic, I'm all right with it too. But I just want to say, we came here, not expecting this. We had no idea what was going on or anything.
So are you referring to 6th Street, maintaining 6th Street?
The easement, where 6th Street ends is where the easement begins.
Right.
And that is just plain dirt, and we have to maintain that for her properties. Like there's 2 different entrances to her property where she uses Miss Muncher's easement that I also use and I maintain. I'm the only person back there with any heavy equipment. And they're currently using it, and there's actually another renter, which is unrelated to this, all using that easement, putting quite a bit of strain on it, and no one contributes to maintenance, cost, land, dirt, fill dirt, things like that. So it's pretty much, our concern is additional traffic down that easement is what we're concerned about.
So I guess when 6th Street technically ends is where the easement starts?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. So once again, I mean, if you'll take a step back, you'll see the plat.
Yep.
It's showing track 1, track 2. I mean, that is all that's being asked for tonight.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it looks like there's a county right-of-way there.
That's what it
looks like County
shows.
Road number 214,
I
right?
mean, that's what it shows, unless the county just doesn't maintain it anymore. I don't know, 30-foot right away.
Yeah, that looks
All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Any further
Yeah,
discussion?
just remember AR2, one unit per lot.
Which is what's there now. Correct.
AR1, you could have the two. It was conforming with that. Right?
Oh.
So, do we any need to suggest an additional easement on this property to provide, or one of these lots to provide access back to the other? Okay.
Any further discussion? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the request with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Mr. Higgins, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 10 is a public hearing for James Holton, request to rezone 4.58 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for subdivision to create a new home site located at 5237 Highway 17 South. It's the first district. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So again, the applicant is requesting to rezone to AR2 to create a new home site. This too is a, I'm sorry, they do need to rezone the entire 4.58 acres, as creating that 1 acre parcel does take it below that 5 acre threshold, and so both parcels do need to be rezoned to AR2 because they are no longer within the AR1 threshold. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Questions at this time? Comments?
We're not combining parcel 1 and parcel 2, are we?
No, sir, this is not a recombination, it is a division.
We're just doing parcel 1, 4.8 acres, 4.58 acres.
And dividing
Oh,
it.
now it's 3.5, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's cutting an acre out. Got it.
Got it.
Is there a representative or anyone that wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Discussion from the board. Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Mr. Smith, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item number 14. The public hearing for Mr. Donald Barnard, request to rezone 4.91 of 9.91 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for subdivision to create new home sites on Fair Street. This is the 3rd district. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting to just rezone the 4.91 acres, as it does fall again below that 5 acre threshold. It does need to conform with zoning to be the AR2. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any discussion? Is there anyone who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? All right, call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Smith, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all.
This was Barnard, right? Just make sure.
That was
Right.
Donald
Barnard.
Barnard, technically item number
That was
14.
confusing, but that was
So
All right.
now we're on, I guess, number 11. Public hearing for Brian Quigley as agent for Jeremy Neese, request to rezone 102.67 acres from I-1 to I-1 to allow for the amendment of previously approved conditions located on US Highway 80. It's the 1st district. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So at the June 20th, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting, the board did approve the rezoning of the parcels that you see here that are highlighted in red. That is our I-1 district. However, that rezoning did have a list of conditions that were approved with it, and those conditions are listed on your staff report. The applicant would like to revise the conditions to remove that a berm within the 300-foot buffer along George Road. The new proposed buffer would be a width of 200 feet with a 20-foot landscape berm and 35-foot undisturbed buffer along George Road, and that is within that 200-foot buffer. So the berm and the 35-foot undisturbed buffer would be part of that total 200 feet. This would exceed our current buffer ordinance as well, and it would also bring what they're proposing for their buffers to our new buffer ordinance. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
Chelsea, can you tell the chair how that exceeds the current ordinance?
Yeah.
So, let me, hold on 1 second for me.
I think the current is 150 feet.
150 feet for 150 feet for a 25-foot berm, and 16 feet for 275. I think is what it says.
Okay, then I misspoke.
No, you can look and see to make sure.
175.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's 175.
So this is the proposed 200 feet foot buffer with a 20-foot berm in it.
Yes.
35 feet of which is undisturbed. And that 35 feet will border the outer portion of the property.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So was there also the condition about the orientation of the buildings?
Is that why we're here?
So that that condition is part of the original rezoning. That is not one that they asked to have removed.
Thought I remember the buildings were turned parallel. Were they not?
The backs of the building were gonna face,
George Road.
George Road,
With no doors, dock doors.
without any doors.
Now, I don't know what was approved at the commissioner level there.
So at the commissioner level, the original rezoning was a singular warehouse, and the truck court was opposite of George Road. Let me pull this back up for you.
So was it a rezoning and a sketch plan, or just a rezoning?
So it was both. It was a rezoning and a sketch plan.
Okay. So the rezoning is the first, and then the sketch plan is being revised at the end of the meeting there.
So it looks like the truck entrances are on the sides.
So why do we have to rezone?
Because you have to take off the conditions that they're asking to be taken off.
Maybe we can.
Go ahead.
Well, that's why I was asking about the orientation, because it does look like the new alternatives still include that rotation language about the truck courts being on the opposite side. With the plan that was submitted, that's not the case. So that's all I was trying to clarify.
That's right, it's not.
But I guess, I mean, I would have thought that was, I guess it could be part of the rezoning, but also more with the sketch or
Yeah, that's a sketch.
site plan.
But it was a condition we put on the zoning, much like the buffer language. So that's all I wanted to clarify, because I feel like if we didn't bring that up and clarify that now during the zoning process, that condition still applies, and I don't see how we review the next step if it moves forward.
So number 10 on the screen is what you're referring to, correct?
Well, future sketch and development plans show truck court location to be on the outside of the road. Yeah.
And that's not currently proposed to be revised. I just want to clarify what the request was.
Per the application, it was just the berm within the 300-foot buffer along George Road.
Okay.
All right. Is there a representative for Mr. Quigley or Mr. Neese? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Taylor Stein. I'm here on behalf of Brian Quigley. It was our intention originally to, you see with the new orientation of the buildings, because they're turned perpendicularly to have them removed. Part of our thinking in that is the previously approved plan is almost 2,000 feet of continuous facade. They're adjacent to the properties along George Road. By turning the buildings this way, you have about half that. I think we're at 1,080 for building frontage along the George Road properties. And then as far as the concerns with the truck court, trucks are typically 13.5 feet tall, whereas, as Chelsea said, our berm would be 20 feet tall and then have the new landscaping as required in the updated ordinance. So those trucks would be completely screened there. And then as far as the buffer decrease, the original approved conditions had it so that it met the 300-foot buffer as required between an I-1 and an R1 parcel. And under the new ordinance, the buffer can be decreased to 200 feet per a 16-foot berm. However, we are proposing a 20-foot berm there along the George Road property line to help give some additional screening. It would still include the trees and additional landscaping as it's set forth in the currently updated ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Stein.
Thank you.
Questions for him at this time?
He needs to address number 10 and while he's up there.
So, I mean, I'll just go real, I mean, items 1 through 6 are pretty standard. Item 7, land clearing, site development, building construction activities limited to 7 to 7 unless a night work permit is approved. We're not arguing that, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Platted 10-foot non-access easement along George Road, just allowing future access to George Road. That'll be gone.
No, we would keep the 10-foot non-access easement to prevent anybody from building across one of those properties and try to get access off of George Road.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that would be included in that 35-foot undisturbed area that Chelsea mentioned earlier.
So the berm height is asked to be changed, and all future development plans show truck court location to be on the opposite side of the warehousing from George Road. So you're asking to orient the building in a different manner.
Yes, sir, and we believe that because it offers, less building frontage along, that it's going to be less unsightly, and additionally, for any concerns about being able to see the trucks from that side, that the berm would be tall enough, in addition with the trees proposed on top of it, that you wouldn't be able to see those trucks.
Okay, and item 11 is just a basic lighting plan. I mean, which, the county has a lighting plan. They have to point down anyway, so.
Yes, sir, and that would be part of the development process, is providing a photometric lighting plan showing no effect to the residences along George Road.
Okay. So any questions for Mr. Stein at this time? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request?
I'm not even here for this, but it's kind of bothering me. My name's Dennis Hales, and my wife and I, we live about halfway down the road. So this is directly behind us. Y'all seen us in here plenty of times, and we've fought and fought not to have a warehouse. The owners did go out of their way to, and we still fought it because we didn't want the area to become I-1, and it did. But and we lost, and we've accepted that we've lost and all that. But that long warehouse was a big buffer. The tractor trailers on the other side of it, there was definitely no doubt about hearing them. I've looked at some of the things here, and I just listed them real quick, and I'm not going to keep it very long. But we're looking at 3 warehouses now going this way, where there was one long one. All we was going to see was the back of it, and we had a 300-foot setback. They want 200. I yesterday spent a bunch of time with a measuring tape and flags, and even went to the trouble of putting a 20-foot pole up. It was a thing when I got a couple of neighbors come down and look at it, and I wasn't 100% against it. But at 35 foot, and I've got pictures on my phone, I'll be glad to hand it to you. You can pass it around if you like. But when at 35 foot from the property line where the barbed wire fence was, I went out and put a flag and took a picture. And some of the prettiest oak trees that you'd ever want to see are out there, and they're gone if they're going to take from 30 foot out. So it's not in an undisturbed area. It was like 45 foot to these trees. They're directly behind our house. They're buffers. And originally, to get this done, when the owners were, really trying to please us, they said they would leave the trees that border us. And whatever it took the warehouse in, that's what they were going to do. So it's in a 20-foot berm, when you back far enough, you can still see over. And some of the berms I see, the trees either die or they don't water them, they don't grow. So you really can't count on that. And like I say, they got 2 driveways now. They got one on this side of the warehouse and then one on the other side of the warehouse, shown on that drawing. But I'm bit against it. I had one of my neighbors down yesterday, and he looked at it, and they were against it. And we may have some on our street that aren't against it. I don't know. We love each other on our street. We've had a neighbor that's moved in since the warehouse was approved, and they've been there 5 or 6 months. He couldn't come tonight, but he said when he bought the house, he was under the impression he was going to look at the back of the warehouse, and he had no problem with it. Now he's got 3 going in, and he doesn't like it. My neighbor down the street said, we swallowed that pill that first time, and it's just hard to swallow this. They did it to get what they wanted, to make money, and something probably fell through on it, and now they're trying to do something else, and I just think it's wrong. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Hales. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? In favor or against?
My name is Dale Mixon. I'm not even here for this one, but that just don't sound right. These people had an idea of what was going to be done. It was approved by y'all, and now the company and corporation is changing it. And that orientation of the building will affect the noise level. I mean, it's a quiet community over there, and I think y'all need to take a stand on this. You can't just let them come here and change things after they promise those residents something. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Can we have his name again, please?
I'm sorry, Dale Mixon.
Dale Mixon.
I'm Ricky Steele. I know y'all all know me. I've been here many, many times. And again, we did fight this warehouse tooth and nail the first time. We conceded to the conditions that the county set forth and that they agreed to. We would prefer that it stay the way it was decided to put it. I think we're going to have a problem with noise if they turn the warehouses the way they're planning to turn them. No matter what you do to the buffer, because the buffer's not going to stop the noise the way the warehouse would have if the traffic was on the other side. A big concern I have as well is to double the 2 driveways off Highway 80. Originally, it was going to be one driveway on the far side of the warehouse. Now they're proposing 2, one to come in behind the warehouses and one to come in the front. And I know right now it says the one driveway is for employees. But what's to say if we change what they want to change now, that they're not going to change that to a truck driveway instead of an employee driveway? If we're going to agree to change the buffer from 300 to 200, what's to say they don't change that? If we allow these things to keep continually changing after we've made hard decisions, we're just asking ourselves for more and more problems. So y'all really need to take that into consideration. I prefer it stay the way it was originally, and they deal with what they agreed to. We're having to deal with what they agreed to. They should. Thank you.
Mr. Steele, one second. The berm, originally, the berm in the 300-foot buffer is how high? 10?
So a height was not, a specific height was not given. But yes, that would be the typical height.
The
within-
minimum was gonna be 10 feet.
Minimum was gonna be 10. So within that, I mean, they will obviously have to clear some of that 300-foot buffer to put
Right.
the berm in.
But it was gonna be not all the way to the property
Correct.
line.
That's right.
They were gonna leave all the big trees.
So I guess you're of the opinion that a 20-foot berm will not stop noise?
I don't think yes, it'll help the noise, but I don't think it's gonna stop the noise. You gotta understand, we have a pulp mill 3/4 of a mile from the house,
Yes, sir.
and we hear it all night long.
Sure.
So you don't think we're gonna hear that warehouse across the street? 300 yards away,
I mean,
all night long.
okay, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
Rusty Sessions, 159 George Road. Mine was more of a question of drainage. You know, dropping back the 100-foot, adding the 20-foot berm, I kind of thought would handle the noise and the light. But, you know, and it did mention a 15-foot drainage ditch within which I guess is more of a question for this guy. Which side of the berm is the drainage ditch on? I'm assuming it's on our side. But then you've got a 35-foot undisturbed area. So we're talking 35-foot, 15-foot drainage ditch, and then a 20-foot berm?
So I guess your concern is the water,
Drainage,
the water
yeah.
coming off of the,
Coming off the berm, if you've got the drainage ditch there, that's my only question.
correct. And I mean, the berms are also required to have pipes under them, through them, you know, to allow any, but can't block it, that's right.
Right.
So go ahead, I mean, do you see anything on this?
I'll let their engineer answer.
We'll get clarification on that.
Okay.
Do you have any other concerns?
Yeah, really don't.
Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Sessions.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that is what they're proposing, is the 30-foot undisturbed, the 15-foot drainage, and then the berm.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against? In just one moment. I think Ms. Easton did by the plan.
I'm not too good at this, but I'll give it a go. Keith Floyd, 2431 US Highway 80. My driveway sits on 80, right at the corner of this property. In discussion here. The one thing I want to bring up is the Effingham, or the Ebenezer Scenic Byway that was developed. There's a stretch between Meldrum Road and 17. And I've heard no discussion about the impact from all of the money and things that was done to develop that many years ago. It's something that you should consider.
All right, sir.
And, you know, yeah, I agree. It was decided. We didn't like it. It was decided. Now they're trying to turn it. So leave it be.
All right,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Do we have a copy of that, please?
Mr. Floyd, do you have a copy of the?
What happened to the original sketch plan?
Sir?
What happened to the original sketch plan?
I'm sure she has a copy of it.
Why aren't they adhering to that?
One building and now it's three.
Yeah. But why would they, but when you sketched it out, aren't you committed to that?
I mean, you've got the right to change it. You just gotta come back to this
Yeah.
process.
Didn't work, couldn't sell it. Market. Good. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Sir? Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry for my lateness. I'm Melissa Still, and I too live on George Road. And I feel, and we've talked about it, that we are against them changing or shortening the buffer in regards to the 3 different warehouses. It just seems like it's going to be again, more traffic, which y'all have no control over, especially down the Highway 80 corridor until something is done with that. And I know that we've come up here so many times and said some of the same things, but it was agreed upon for the larger buffer. Industrial is industrial, so we would like to keep it that way if we could, please. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Steele. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Mr. Stein, could you come address the one issue with the drainage, please?
Yes, sir. Could I speak on the access as well?
Sure.
People have been asking about the access. For the drainage ditch, the 15-foot drainage ditch, that would be, you have your property line, your 35-foot undisturbed area, and then you would have a 15-foot drainage ditch to help deal with any runoff that's coming on the George Road side of that berm. We have taken that into account. As far as the access, we have, with US 80 being a GDOT road, we have had pre-application meetings with GDOT. Per the county ordinances, we have provided a traffic study that will go through with the development plan that concurs with the proposed access, which is also what was recommended by GDOT. And GDOT also recommends that the road be widened and add a left turn lane to prevent queuing up onto US 80. And then I guess the last thing just being the 20-foot berm, 16-foot berm by the ordinance was developed by the county to kind of help with this issue in the future. And so as I said before, the original conditions were before the ordinance was put into effect, and so we're just trying to get it updated to how it's currently being addressed. Thank you.
You have anything? All right, at this time, I'll close public comment. Discussion for the board, questions for staff.
Yeah, I guess I just, again, to follow back up on my original question, did they actually apply to change the orientation and what they applied for?
So the application did specifically say just the berm within the 300-foot buffer. However, after, you know, hearing his presentation, if that is a recommendation that you would like to put forth, you know, you can definitely make that a condition.
Well, he's definitely putting it forth. Right?
Yeah.
Any discussion?
I mean, look, Highway 80, I understand it has some, a scenic byway overlay on it of some sort from somewhere, but it is a transitioning area. But this has got a lot, that orientation of the building, that's why I've asked about it 3 or 4 times. I mean, that was a big thing last time. And I don't know, I just don't, personally, one, I don't feel like we should have to identify that needed to be a condition removed. So if I make a motion, I'm not making that motion for them. And then I guess we'll see where the rest of it goes. I mean, the buffers are definitely something we've tweaked as the county's gone along, but we did have some additional concern with the uniqueness of this one, with the adjacency of a developed single-family neighborhood directly adjacent. Maybe this was one where 300 plus something was necessary. That's why it was a condition.
Yeah, I mean, the 20-foot berm is definitely more effective. I mean, I've been on this piece of property and looked at it. I mean, it's not heavily wooded, so when you throw a 10-foot berm up there, it's not going to do much. But as they said, when you back the building up, that definitely helps. But a 20-foot berm you wouldn't hear it. I mean, it's, you know, you'll hear the highway and you'll hear the chip mill because there is no berm between there and the chip mill. So, but no, I can't. I do also agree with them that, you know, this was heavily vetted and heavily contested, you know, and feel like it was a compromise made for a reason. So, anyone else? Ready to make a motion? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'm just concerned like Ryan, the orientation of the buildings has got me a little stumped.
Yeah, I mean,
it was sketched out and agreed to, and
I know there's challenges to it, but it was a big thing that we really discussed and saw as a benefit of what was being proposed. And the fact that it wasn't specifically requested as part of the amendment, that's why I don't feel comfortable making it, fixing that. Like, to me right now, from what I understand, the only thing that was requested was just the buffer
Berm.
change.
Number 9.
Berm, yeah.
And
But
I think
that could be a benefit. I'm not saying.
That's right.
There certainly is a benefit. In my opinion, I do think the 20-foot height additional berm would give additional protections. So let's go with this. I'll make a motion to approve the request to reduce the buffer with a 20-foot height. We need to be very specific about, we're not talking about we gotta quit saying 20 foot. We're talking about height, right? Heights.
Yes, correct.
20-foot berm, and that's the only condition that's being removed.
20-foot berm.
Height and a 200-foot wide buffer. That's the new condition in lieu of the original condition number 9.
Item number 9.
Or, excuse me, item
So an
number 9.
amendment of item number 9.
so. The recommendation is to change the condition put on
the berm.
the berm and changing number 9, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second?
Be a 20-foot, very specifically. The condition's not a berm. It's a 20-foot as proposed berm.
Right.
It needs to be specific, as opposed to just saying George Road in height right there. So,
That's what I'm at.
Does everyone understand? Is there any discussion on this motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. We've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Call this meeting back to order. And at request of staff, I mean, we have a sketch plan that goes along with the item that we just heard, item number 11. And since it's fresh on everybody's mind, just go ahead and hear this sketch plan. Brian Quigley is agent for Jeremy Neese, Randy Haddon, and Charles Hildebrandt. Requests approval for a sketch plan for warehouses on Highway 80, zoned I-1. It's the first district. Ms. Samantha.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, like you said, they're requesting approval of their sketch plan. Due to condition number 10 not being removed during the rezoning we just heard, staff cannot recommend approval at this time.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Discussion from the board? Mr. Stein, do you wish to speak, or you have any?
Yes, I guess in lieu of the, proposed sketch plan not being able to meet the building, the thought for the 3 buildings, like I said, one of the benefits that we saw was that there was not as much frontage there along the George Road side. It is overall less square footage than the original proposed building. I think it's about a 14% reduction from what it was originally shown as. And the 3 buildings, I know one may be led to believe that more buildings is going to lead to more trucks, but the way that the loads are kind of calculated for these buildings and the density of what's actually going there doesn't necessarily correlate to the size of the buildings. It's more so it's called gross floor area, so like the total square footage, and as I stated before, it's a reduction to that. And then the 3 buildings would also allow just for a better circulation, just overall for the whole site.
All right, sir. Questions at this time from Mr. Stein? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Question from the board? Yes, sir. All right, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny this sketch plan as proposed.
Have a motion for denial. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor of denial?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 12 was postponed. Item 13. It's a public hearing for Bryant Lagan as agent for TNT 9G LLC. Request to rezone 288.36 acres from AR1 and I1 to PD to allow for residential development located on Midland Road. This is the second district. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting to rezone to PD to incorporate both the R5, which is single-family detached residential, and R3, which is multifamily residential in the same area. The approximate total number of units will be 460, 320 of that being the single-family detached, and 140 of that being the R3 multifamily residential. The plan development text that you do have a copy of in your packet shows the overall allowed density will not exceed 3 units per acre. Per the Effingham County Code of Ordinances, total common open space required for plan development is 20%. The applicant has provided 36.53% of common open space. Effingham County Water and Sewer will serve this development. The rezoning is consistent with the future land use map, as these parcels are projected to be agricultural residential that you see here. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, is there a representative for Mr. Lagan or TNT? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Travis Burke. I'm with Coleman Company, representing BRD Land and Development for this petition tonight. This project was previously brought before Planning and Zoning and Council probably about a year ago with a request to rezone to straight R5 and R3 zoning districts. That petition was denied. We listened to the concerns and issues that were brought forward during those public hearings and neighborhood meetings that were held back then, and so we went back to the drawing board and came up with a new land plan. And this new petition is for a residential plan development. The reason we chose to go with the plan development this time is that it allows for more flexibility within the land plan and also the development standards for the property. You know, we also reduced the proposed density that we were originally looking at. I think the original submittal had 549 proposed homes and townhomes. The new plan has reduced that down to 460. You know, the PD district does have some eligibility requirements before you can qualify to even apply for a PD district. There's a minimum size requirement, which for residential is 20 acres. Our property is 288 acres. There's also a minimum width requirement of 300 linear feet. Our narrowest section where we have frontage along Midland Road is 743 feet. There's also requirements for DRIs to be submitted to the state, which was done with the previous submission at a higher density. And then also the ownership and control, and so the tract of land in the PUD is going, and the application is under a single ownership. As we move forward, you know, with through the PD document, we are proposed two different types of land uses. A detached single-family dwelling, which is your standard single-family home within the subdivision, and attached single-family, which could, in this case, will be townhomes. And then we have a distribution of them in here. By doing the PD district before, when we were trying to do it in two separate zonings, we were having to kind of keep the two uses separated within the property. The flexibility that the PD allows us is to kind of sprinkle those things throughout the development, introduce some amenity areas and some open space and some green space within there, and really provide some flexibility in that land plan. As we look at our development standards within the PD district, we're pretty much aligning with the R5 and R3 development standards that are in place today with a few modifications. With the attached single family, this allowed 9 units per acre by code. We're again capping the total density at 3 units per acre. We're introducing a 24-foot wide minimum on the unit widths for the individual townhomes and limiting them, limiting them to 5 units per building. We're also incorporating a variation in the facade along the front of these units, so they'll have the depth in between each one, so it doesn't look like a single facade. And then also we're increasing the setback requirements within the attached single family so that the buildings cannot be closer than 20 foot to one another, either side by side or back to back. 40 feet, excuse me, it's a 20-foot setback. That ends up providing a 20-foot separation, a 40-foot separation between these buildings. And then we've also increased the front setbacks to be measured from the right-of-way instead of from the street to ensure there's plenty of room for parking and sidewalks and things of that nature in front of the buildings. On the detached single-family, we are requesting a 5-foot reduction in lot width from 50 foot to 45, and then a 600 square foot reduction in the lot area from 6,000 square feet, 6,600 to 6,000 square feet, and also a 2.5 foot reduction in the side yard. As Chelsea pointed out, our common open space for the project is at 36%, which is a total of 105 acres in lieu of the 57 acres that would be the 20% minimum. And then within the PD document, there's also a lot of language in here that pertains to the open space and how it's to be developed, making sure that it meets minimum size areas, that it's usable space for folks within the neighborhood. So it can't just be, area beside a pond that's not usable to folks. We're also including connectivity with trails and sidewalks throughout the neighborhood. And then the other component is the architectural design standards. So in addition to the development requirements for the property, we're also placing architectural standard requirements on the houses that are being proposed. Very similar to what is in the R5 district, but basically they got minimum roof overhangs of 12 inches. architectural singles, front porches to have a minimum depth of 6 feet, so it's actually usable. You can actually sit on your front porch and not have your feet sticking through your front railing there. Also introducing that the side elevations on corner lots not be blank, but also have trim and windows consistent with the front elevations. Minimum height on the first story homes, the first floor. Enacting, you can't have colors or homes of the same facade, within a row. And then side yard bufferings to buffer in the condenser and mechanical equipment and other things of that nature. Just to try to make the neighborhood look nicer. See what else. With the land planning, we're proposing amenities on both sides of the property. Trails connecting this. We're providing some interconnectivity stub outs to adjacent properties for future development. We are also proposing an emergency access, so there's not just one point of access into the property.
Where's that gonna be?
That is to the north. It would be on the, I guess, the
Mr. Chair,
northeast corner of the property.
Can I interrupt just a minute? Are we doing a rezoning tonight? Are we doing a PD text approval, or are we just doing a rezoning?
We are doing a rezoning.
Okay.
So, I guess that's it for my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions you guys may have.
You may have any questions at this time?
I do a couple, but it's going to directly affect what Steve just asked over there. I guess maybe clarify what that was about, because my first question I was reading through on the map and in the text, I didn't see anything specifically calling out what the perimeter buffers were.
The perimeter buffer is 35 feet.
Where's that?
It's a good question.
I may have overlooked it.
Yeah, it may not be there. So, and that's, I guess, a part of the question is, the initial submittal is our draft text and draft concept plan. The way the procedures read that, we would receive feedback from that, and then we would submit a final text and final concept plan version for final approval, is the way I understand the process. So I guess tonight, or we're just requesting the use.
I'm going to let Ms. Chelsea handle that one.
Okay.
So what will happen is, as we do this recommendation, and then you will have to come back before the board with your preliminary plat, which again will be which is typically known as the sketch plan. So you will have to come back before the board with that.
And the text.
And the text, yes.
Okay, thank you. So we do propose a 35-foot buffer. Is included in the drawing. It's not specifically labeled, but we'll make sure to get that, addition added in when we come back with the final approvals if we're provided the opportunity to do so.
So you're proposing 460 units?
That is correct, sir.
That's 2 cars per household. That's 920 cars are gonna come out of there. Yeah.
So, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
So what they're proposing, Mr. Vice Chair, is to rezone from what they're currently zoned to PDR. That's what the request is tonight.
I see.
Can I ask, like, why?
Yes, go ahead.
Why?
I mean, why what?
Why is there not a text associated with it?
I mean, I think on a PD it's fair. I think on a normal rezoning, but I think on a PD, I think the text of, what's, I think it's an open discussion.
Do you have the text?
Yes, we had submitted the text. We had a whole package of.
Do you have the text?
Yeah, I've got the text.
You reviewed the text.
I've reviewed it, yeah, and I had some questions about it, but
Okay.
the process I just heard, I couldn't wrap my head around how I make a recommendation for something that I don't know what the future text is gonna be.
So I'm saying that the preliminary plan process is the second phase after the text and after the rezoning.
I get I understand what Steve's saying. He's saying this is a rezoning, does it make sense to move this to a PD and then later you argue about what the PD text looks like.
Well, you base your rezoning on the PD text, but they can change it between, with feedback from the night, feedback from the commissioners, that text could change. Right?
Yeah. I personally think since they're presenting this as a text, I think it's a fair discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it states in there that only after the zoning has been approved, may the applicant submit a site plan for development.
Yep.
So we provided this as kind of information.
And the site plan would be the preliminary plat. So the picture you see there is not necessarily what could end up being there after it goes through both boards. That's all I'm pointing out to you.
No, the numbers could change.
They could change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I hear discussions about numbers per acre, what it's going to look like.
I get that. I
Yeah.
mean, yes. But, the fact that they're doing townhomes and single-family homes, I don't think that's going to change.
That's a legitimate conversation. That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I guess I'll just have to hear what everybody else says. It's
Go
just-
ahead. I mean, it's a fair conversation.
I don't remember ever seeing it that way. I feel like there's the PD text is the now ordinance that governs the zoning of this piece, and to change the zoning to that, I don't see how I can make a decision without knowing what text I'm approving. That's just where I'm.
So you're saying it needs to be more concrete or
I know it can be amended in the future.
Right.
I mean, that is everybody's right to propose something and tweak something and change something in the future. I just a little confused by that process. I wasn't aware of that, so I'm very glad it was brought up.
Just the preliminary plat process will come next.
But what's the preliminary plat going to be reviewed against if the code?
The text in the code.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the conversation is all about the text. I'm not arguing the fact that you're going to look at the text. I'm saying the conversation is about the text. The text could change from the point it reaches here to somewhere else. So the focus is the text, yes, but the PDR is primary with the text with it. The picture of the concept plan could change at the next level, or it could change after comments from other folks.
Okay.
So it could change.
And you're talking about numbers.
Talking about numbers. But I think you're safe to understand that there's going to be multifamily or townhomes. You're safe to understand there's going to be single family, okay? And you're safe to understand that what he's reading out of the PD text, okay, is what they want to do.
Correct.
I'm just making, again, the point that could change. So if your decision is based on numbers, units per acres, or whatever,
right.
I think that's a false hope. That could change.
We're saying the use, what we're asking for is the use, right?
Right.
And then we still have to come back and get the text and the plan approved as well. That's where I'm kind of a little bit confused myself with the process.
The final version of the text, that's right.
Basically, you're just saying we're looking at the zone PD, taking an AR1 and an I1 and making it, is it plausible to be a PD?
And what he's proposing to do in his text is residential and what the types of units that are in there. I'm just saying don't get hung up on the unit number.
Right. At this stage.
At this
Correct.
stage.
Once they do wetlands, once they do engineering, I mean, it can come in there and be 5 less. 10
Yeah,
less.
they might come out there and delineate. I don't know if you delineated yet.
Yes, sir. we
Okay.
have.
So that's probably not going to change much.
I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
a fair statement.
Something's got to be approved with it, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree.
Otherwise, we
I mean,
have a floating PDR out there. That's
And what's the I1 that's in there is, Chelsea, is that a sand mine?
It was, yes, surface
Yes,
mine.
it was.
It was never acted upon.
And that's-
All right. Do you have any additional questions this time? All right. Thank you, Mr. Burke.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir.
Start a line.
Thank you. My name is Sean Scott. I live at 108 Unique Drive. My property is the end of a private road, and it backs up to the back of this property. One of my concerns is water. where's all that extra water that the trees that were there, where's that water gonna go? Because at the back of my property stays wet all year long. The water has nowhere to go because it's low back there, so you can't put up this much property and have no place for all that water to go. It's gonna be generated on a piece of flat land now, because when they cut the trees off of it, if I remember right, a while back, there was a large section that they left because it was too wet. They couldn't get in there to cut those trees, and they've since gone back and cut those trees. And, you know, we have wildlife around us, and it's relatively quiet. The noise has increased a little bit since they've taken all those trees. And there is a rumor of an emergency road, and if I understood what I heard tonight, that road is going to come out where One Savior Church is, and come down that road and come out across the street from the elementary school. Back there where that One Savior Church is a large pond, so how are you gonna mitigate all the water runoff from the road that's gonna go in and contaminate that waterway? Because there's ducks and geese and everything. You know, Effingham has resident geese, but they're all over the place. And if we keep letting everybody come in here and push down trees and put up houses, Effingham's not gonna have any trees anymore. It's not gonna be the country anymore. I mean, I grew up in Savannah and I moved to Effingham 25 years ago and have loved it up until recently because of, I mean, we're just overwhelmed with the amount of houses. You drive down a road, if you hadn't been on that road in 2 months, beware, because there's probably going to be houses on that road. And it's just very concerning, and I think a lot of these folks here tonight are gonna speak to that. There's just, I don't know that we can handle everything that's been going on around here with the housing boom. I'm very concerned with what's gonna happen to my property, to adjacent property. There's several pieces of property alongside me that run toward Midland. What's gonna happen to all those guys? Are they underwater like I am a lot of times? Are they gonna get more underwater? What's gonna happen? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is John Boston. I live at 556 Zipper Road. I was just, it's kind of funny the way we were handling that about moving the buffers and stuff on the other thing, and we get right here, we ask about a buffer, and they're like, well, we just need to approve this, and then we'll figure out where we're gonna put the buffer. That's not the way to do it.
It's required. He just didn't have it
I
shown on
understand
it.
that, but, okay, all these residents here that back up to this property, they give you a sketch plan, and you, just like the other people earlier, you know, they give them, they're gonna do one thing, and all of a sudden it comes back. Well, it'll already be rezoned when it comes back. Well, what if they put, you know, the buffer where you don't want it, or against your property, whatever? So I think all that should be figured out before we do the, you know, the approving of everything. And, you know, we've already been through all this several times, just like the gentleman, this gentleman right here said a while ago, the traffic. Come on. Y'all been down Midland Road? I've talked to county commissioners. Oh, well, you know, cry me a river. They said, well, we're not gonna do anything to a road because we got 5 hours of rush hour traffic over there in South Effingham. You know, 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 in the afternoon. Well, 1,100 cars been there. Talked to a teacher the other day. She said they're, like Marlowe School, they're having to run double routes with buses. You know, they go pick up at, some townhomes over there, you know, townhomes, great. That's a great plan for the county is townhomes, guys. Y'all live in townhomes, I don't live in a townhome. Nobody moved to Effingham to live in a townhome. So I'm gonna quit right now before I get irate, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boston.
Jim Rickman. I want to build on the point that Sean Scott made a moment ago. About 8 or 10 years ago, there was trees on the property, and they cut them down, and then it was sold. At that point in time, they did the entrance off of Midland Road. They built it up,
so they, get in there a little better. And at that point, we have the bay that's running from Our Savior Church through Sean's, through my property, and on down through a few more properties to Midland. And so when we get heavy rain, that fills up and it flows, I guess that would be to the west. Well, when they did that improvement, instead of having 6 inches of water in there when we got 6 inches of rain, we ended up with 12 and it didn't flow. So my concern is their site plan developed enough to allow that water to flow. He made a point about parking lots, or some other people did. Is that water going to flow, or are we going to end up with a big swamp? It's a wetland at the back edge of our property, and then in the middle of this property, there's another wetland. They both flow towards Midland, and we can't have any more water there. Just plain and simple, it's got to flow the way it naturally flows. And then the other thing is that they, building on a point of a moment ago, the buffer. I mean, I've never been to one of these meetings, but it's almost embarrassing to this bait and switch. If we said that he said there's going to be a 35-foot buffer, by God, it should be a 35-foot buffer. It's going to be 460 units. Everybody here is listening to that. I don't know who pushes back on these things, but I guess I'm here to say that if people say things, they got to be true to their word. That's all I have to say.
So I guess I'll address that. I mean, the buffer is required. I mean, he presented this plan that just doesn't show it on it, but it's a requirement of the county. It's non-negotiable. It's 35 feet is what's required in a PD. So, I mean, he can't build it without it, period. Your other point was...
Mr. Chair, the buffers are required on our zonings and other zonings. In a PD, they can suggest a certain amount based on what they submit in their text. The current buffering from an AR1 to other R1s or something like that are 30 feet, and that's what we changed from. It used to be, 15 feet. So we just doubled it.
30 or 35.
30. But that's an AR1, that's an AR2, things like that. So in the PD text, they put in what it is that fits best for that. That's the point of the PD. They can write their own text. But the standard that we go by is more or less 30 feet.
30 feet.
Yeah.
And it will be required. It will be stated. I mean, so it's non-negotiable.
Is there somebody that, I'm sorry for interrupting you, is there somebody that approves the stormwater plan? Somebody technical, or do they just
have an engineer right here?
Jonathan Holm, I'm county engineer, so when it gets time for the development plan review, that's when the stormwater and traffic and wetlands and floodplain will come into account, and I'll be the one doing the technical review for that.
Okay, well, you can go walk the dog with me and you can see thunderstorm and...
Yeah, there's the local stormwater management manual that Effingham County has, and they'll have to follow the requirements that are set in that.
Okay.
And to the point of the number, I mean, it's hard to set the number now because this is the first step in the process. And so then you got to go do the engineering, the wetlands, make sure everything's, and so that's what sets the final number. I mean, you've spent a lot of money to get to your final number for your final plat, whatever.
Yeah, and also to address the previous gentleman too, is the commissioners have the opportunity to set certain conditions on a rezoning. Those conditions can be above and beyond what they've included in a text of some kind. And so it could be increased buffers. It could be taking down less trees. It could be, just different ways to do things, but those conditions are part of rezoning, and it's called a conditional use rezoning. So when we have this conversation here and talking about how it can change, it just depends on what the commissioners decide at the legislative level on, things that are based on the comments here. And just different situations like that can dictate some change. So that's why we just, you know, you can talk some numbers here, but they could be different when it gets after the commissioner meeting, and then they have to implement that in a site plan that we go out and look at when they start construction.
When it was all pine trees, it was all furrowed, and that water runs towards our property. And then it also runs the opposite direction, maybe 500 yards onto the property. And so it's naturally flowing that way, and that's what I'm most concerned about.
Right.
If they make that an instantaneous flow, and there's not getting sucked up by trees, and we got roads, and you know what I'm saying.
So I'm not an engineer, but they have to calculate all those numbers. What's coming on now, what's going to be leaving.
Yes, sir, that's right. They have to, they can't let any more additional water come off the site than what's already there today. So they cannot be releasing the water off the site any faster than they are today. So
And how does that get verified from today to when they're?
There'll be a stormwater report that they'll have to submit, and again, it'll be a part of the development plan review portion. Once it gets to that stage, and that's something that they have to have prepared by a professional engineer, and it has to be calculated, and stormwater models have to be involved with that, and I'll be doing the technical review side of that.
Right now, there's a fire boundary, and that's furrowed perpendicular to what the flow would be. So water's coming, it'll go into that furrow there before it comes off of the property. So there's not an enormous amount making it off the property at this point, I guess is my point.
Yeah, and they'll have to maintain those detentions that are there today.
Okay. Thank you,
sir.
Good evening. My name is Shelley Payne. I live at 4329 Midland Road. This planned development is approximately 3 acres from my house. I know y'all have heard all about the water and you've heard about the traffic. You already know that that's an issue. One of the other issues that I would like to bring to your attention is the excessive burden on our schools. I, in particular, have 3 kids in our schools now in that particular district. The application that they submitted says that there would be no burden on our schools. However, if you look at the school choice for next year, the three out of 4 schools in our area are already at capacity. So people who are already paying taxes and who already have children in our schools can't even send their kids to our schools because there's not room. This company is proposing to put 400 plus houses on Midland Road, and they're claiming that it's in compliance or that it goes along with the houses that are already there. However, that's not accurate. They're referencing the houses that are on Highway 30, Park West in particular, which is like 3 miles down the street. Our houses are 1 acre lots spread apart. You're not even getting close to your neighbors. The closest subdivision is behind our house, and it's been there for approximately 30 plus years. So the houses there's no way you're putting 400 houses in a neighborhood behind my house. I would ask that you just consider that in addition to everybody else's comments, but what drain on our current resources this is going to place, no matter what the final number is, no matter what the buffers are, or anything like that. There's simply no way to accommodate 400 more houses of children in one particular area, which I would note that directly about a quarter of the mile down the street, you have another subdivision that's in the planning stages as well. So I would just ask you to keep that in mind before you change this to a planned development. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jared Tipton. I own some land on Zipper Paddock, which I plan on building on, but I'll try to address some other items that haven't been brought up yet or either expand on them. I guess I've got a copy of last year's planning board meeting minutes. And last year it said the project is not consistent with the county future land use map. And I guess this year it's saying it is.
Yes, sir. So to answer your question, if I may, so we recently, at the end of last year, adopted a new future land use map as a policy document. And if you take a step back, you can see that colored map there, that does show that parcel, and it is right here and there. And it shows it in that light green color. That is agricultural residential, and so that is what I based that on.
Yep, and I understand that. I basically was just bringing up, as of a year ago, it didn't make sense there. Let's see, number 2, they talked about, so they're asking, it's not just a PD, but it's a PDR, because they're asking to, I guess, do some modifications, and one of those was to reduce the distance on the side of the house to 5 feet. Well, between this column and that column is 12 feet. So the houses would be closer together than that. And they were talking about, I guess, putting some stuff for the HVAC units, maybe so they wouldn't be seen. And you could imagine 2 of those sitting there, you know, taking up all the space. Let's see, so since they're asking for that variance and getting it down to 5 feet, and the square footage down to 6,000, that's smaller than 1/7 of an acre as far as, so if they're asking for that variance, then they're definitely going to be putting that number of houses, and I know we don't want to necessarily talk about the number of houses, but if they're asking for that variance, that's their plan. And the biggest thing, last meeting, and seems to still exist, is there's only one entrance to Midland Road. There's no other entrances that, to my knowledge, that they own property for, that they're tying into. That was one of the biggest things, written down right here. Mr. Ryan Thompson stated the main concern was the single access point. That was a year ago. And and you know, it was listed traffic and everything like that you're gonna hear from everybody with traffic, schools, and water. And I guess we made a motion for denial last time, and I hope we can do that again this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
My name's Clinton Watts. I'm here on behalf of my mother, Jacqueline Miller, that lives at 110 Winay Lane, that backs up to their property. I have a power attorney here if you need to see it, that I speak for her and everything. Everybody's pretty much said a lot of things that we have thought about and talked about with her and stuff. But I would say to the water engineer over there, I know you have things marked and stuff, but as Jim was talking about over there, you need to go walk the property, because that water, we have a pond behind her house. He has one behind his. And when you get week after week of just these evening storms that hit us in the summer times a lot and everything, I have seen those ponds where they completely come together. It cannot take any more water at all. Quite frankly, where that continues to go out towards Midland Road, something needs to be done to help that flow of water to get out of there. So, you know, that is just a big thing, and you cannot tell me putting almost 500 homes in there. I live in Belmont Glen subdivision, over 500 homes with one entrance. I know what the impact it has. They're talking about doing an emergency one, but they're not really saying where, and it don't sound like they own the property like they say. So are they gonna try to take somebody's property to put an emergency exit in? You know, I mean, there's too many unknowns. And I watched planning and zoning go through this. My wife was on planning and zoning. I won't say a name, but she was on planning and zoning in Pooler. And I watched this stuff go on. If you pass it to plan, it will never go back, no matter what they change, and it'll just go over and over and over again. Something needs to sort of be more concrete of what they're gonna do before you ever pass it. Because once it's passed, it's done.
Yes,
It's
sir.
over.
That's right.
So, my name's Clint Watts again, and
Thank you,
thank
Mr.
you.
Watts. So, just, I don't know if anyone else wishes to speak, but I'll just give you a list of what we've heard a lot of is, I mean, obviously traffic, schools, drainage issues, the water, the single entrance, a change to the actual size of lots, you know, reconfiguring things, I mean, the size of them. Did I miss anything? So I'd like to ask that, you know, anyone with any new information, I mean, obviously everyone is entitled to speak, but, you know, if you have any additional information, by all means, yes, sir.
Is that subdivision that comes off the?
My name is Kevin Wilkins.
Kevin Wilkins?
Wilkins, yes.
Thank you, sir.
I live at 1268 Colic-Helmy Road. I'm not going to go over the traffic. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
My understanding is across Highway 30 behind the church, there's another development going there. I would like for you guys to consider as well. That I don't know the specifics, and I'm not going to say that I do. That corner, if you've ever driven down Highway 30 at 4:30 in the afternoon, you're stopped back by the mini storage place while Benton just empties out through the roundabout. I just disagree with the amount of homes that are going in that space. But that's just an opinion, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Is anyone with any additional information?
I'm Kathy Cook. I live at 4321 Midland Road. I have a question. Maybe I'm the only one here who does not understand why they are asking for this to be rezoned to a PD instead of going straight to what they were asking for previously. Can someone explain that to me?
Sure. Would you like to explain that, Ms. Ferdinand?
Thank you, Ms. Chelsea.
So I will, I can kind of reiterate a little bit about what their engineer also said. So with PD, plan development, they can take, they can, in essence, write their own zoning, which is what they're trying to do, with having two different types of zoning encompassed in this one property. So they want to have the R5 and the R3. When you do that separately, you do have to, again, adhere to the buffer requirements. So I think they were looking for more of that flexibility. And again, I can let Mr. speak to that too. But they do have that right
So
to
apply for that.
Yes, sir. Just in one second. Do you have anything else, Ms. Cook, or you just want an answer to that question?
Ms. Cook, can I add one more thing to that, please? To your right, Ms. Cook.
Ms. Cook,
there you go.
Go ahead.
So the county has discouraged what we call split zoning. And so if they would have done an R3 and an R5, you would have had to what we call...
I'm sorry.
Yes.
So the R3 is the townhomes. The R5 is the single
it's
family.
Single family. So we just don't do split zoning. And so that's what the PD allows them to put both of those R zonings into one zoning, so we don't have to go through a split zoning and they don't have to go through a split zoning as well. That's the primary reason why.
Because they have the two uses in this development, then the plan development allows them the flexibility to do both under the PD zoning.
And they don't have to come back to you for permission to do anything they may want to do?
Oh, yeah.
They do. There will be this plan development text, which you've heard some discussion about, will have to be, it'll be vetted and it'll be discussed and it will be, this is what we're doing, but that's at a later meeting. But it will have to be verified, this is exactly what our plan is. And then once they set that plan, if they ever want to change it, they just have to come back and ask to change it.
And then, Ms. Cook, they'll have a drawing, which they submitted one tonight, that's called a preliminary plat. That preliminary plat has to be approved at the planning board level and at the commissioner level. Once that preliminary plat is approved, that in essence is what they're taking from that text and putting on the ground. Okay? So that's the reality of what that text says. And then they do a preliminary plat. It goes through here. It goes through the commissioners. And then staff makes sure that everything that's in the text is on that picture, that plat. And then we make sure that everything that the ordinance requires on top of that is on that preliminary plat. Then they go out there, they build roads, They do all the stormwater, they make sure the buffers are all there, and then they look at the lots and how they want to set the lots down. Once that is done, then we go out there and we inspect to make sure the preliminary plat is exactly what it is. They put on the ground what it is. Then they'll come back in and they'll do what's called a final plat. Final plat has to go to everybody and get approved, but that's the end of it at the final plat stage. That means they built it exactly how they said they were, and that the ordinance is approved with everything they did. And that final plat is when they mark the corners of the lots, they mark everything, the roads are accepted into the county system if they so desire to do so. Jonathan goes out there to make sure the stormwater works. We go out there to make sure there's no mud and stuff like that in the water and sewer. And that's final plat. Everything has to be exactly so before we pass that final plat. That's the process they'll have to go through. I know
will
it's
add- I will-
long-winded, but it's a good question.
I will add that my property does flood. We have a drainage dish that was cut into the property before we bought it. And that may get 2 to 3 feet deep when we have just a hard rain. I've walked through water up to my knees before on our property. So it sounds like to me, if you just deny this, what they're asking for tonight, that it would save everybody a lot of trouble and them a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. So, sir, did you wish to, hold on 1 second, 1 second. Sir, did you wish to? Okay.
Justin Zipper, I live at 3911 Midland, and I got the 270 acres that run northwest. What is it, 460 houses, 1,000 people? I don't know why there ain't a code, and me have the burden of keeping it, 200-300 people off of it, because the amenities that they're talking about and is gonna be my 270 ATV park. Is there any way, I mean, if something like that is planned, a fence, berm, just like the warehouses get on my side, give me a fighting chance.
That's a fair request.
Which one is his?
It's northwest, 260, 270.
The big
100
parcel
acres.
that runs the long lot.
Yeah, I got a half a mile road that runs parallel with it.
I'm with you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zipper.
I'm terrible with this stuff.
You're good. Don't butter him up.
Dennis Heinen, I live at 968 Collikelmy, and my property backs up to this proposed subdivision here. In their presentation and the paper they presented, I don't see anything on here about a PD anywhere in the area close to this development or anything else in there. So, I mean, why they think that that a PD is desirable for this area? If you ride around there, there's all kinds of subdivisions already being proposed in construction and additional houses in the area. Also, the 45-foot wide lot. I mean, how can anybody approve something like that? You know, I mean, it's just not conducive to Effingham County, in my opinion. You know, I know you've heard all about the stormwater and everything else, but all the water that they've got, ponds that they've got on here, you know, I mean, I hope they got someplace where, you know, when a tropical storm comes through and they start overflowing, that it's gonna go somewhere other than somebody else's property. But, you know, I guess that'll be, but the biggest thing with the PD is they can come in and change if it benefits them during that process just about at any time. So they could propose 400 units and then come back and say, oh, no, we're gonna put 600 units in here and do it because the PD allows that, if I'm not mistaken, right?
But with the approval of the board.
Well, are we gonna get notified that they're gonna do that too? Probably not.
A PD text amendment does require notification of the surrounding landowners,
It's
yes.
public zone. It's a public hearing.
Well, okay.
Thank you.
I hope so.
Good evening. Alex Long, I just have a couple questions, mostly about the PD text. It is my understanding that a PD text is, when you zone to a PD, and Steve, I'm just confused on that because I've done a couple of PUDs in other counties. When you approve the PD for a rezoning, you're approving the text along with that PD. How can you approve a PD, like Ryan said, without knowing the parameters of the text that go with it? I'm just confused on that process.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you start talking numbers.
I'm not talking numbers. I'm talking about the text, the
That's right.
parameters of the text.
It gets approved.
Because the text becomes the zone.
But it can change. That's right. It can change at the commissioner level from what it is here.
So how are we approving the text?
Like somebody quoted the number 460, right?
Y'all have the text? Y'all have the text?
Yeah, they got the text.
Oh, okay. That's
yeah. I'm saying if a number is quoted 460 here,
right. The number could change based on the thing,
right.
but the text becomes
at the
zone.
commissioner level, the text becomes the PD.
Correct.
And then they have to do the picture to match the text.
Correct.
Right.
What's the current buffer under the text that they've submitted?
It's the standard for the PD is 35.
The 35? Okay.
Yep.
Do they? I'm just curious.
Which is 5 feet above what an AR1 would be. Yeah, you know
right.
that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm familiar with the current zoning and buffers. I mean, I do this for a living too, but I was just curious about the text because it sounded like in the beginning that y'all didn't actually have the text, so y'all were working on that. The single entrance that was the issue there before. I understand there's a proposed emergency exit? Do we have an approved easement for that, or acquired the land for that at this time? Or you have a contract? Okay. That was just one of my thing. And then it's not finalized, but I mean, okay. And then do we have the what is the net? I heard the gross number of units per acre. What is the net on that?
That is the net. It's less than 3.
The 3 was the net? Okay. I just, in the amendments, it didn't show the wetlands on that. So those were just some questions I would like to, we're just looking to have answered just to make an educated decision.
That's the net today.
Today, right. Based on the proposal, but we all,
Thank you.
know.
Yes.
So, all right, thank you.
Anyone with any additional information they wish to share?
Dale Mixon again. I live on 190 Zipper Road. And I know you've already heard all the other stuff, so just mark it times 100 because we got more people that didn't show up. But another thing is, I know our county's growing. I know you got to have subdivisions, everything. Y'all got a hard job to approve. But we got to ask ourselves, what kind of county do we want in the future? I'm actually a product of HUD housing or government housing when I come up. And let me tell you, from a kid standpoint, and these houses will 460, you're going to have kids there. And there's not enough room there for these guys and these girls to get out and play. They're going to get in trouble. So from a crime standpoint, I'm not saying it's not going to be in any house or any subdivision, but when you put people so close together, 460 units, and I know you say however many units per acre, I have a hard time with that math. If you got 260 acres, but all your houses are on 5 acres, that's an exaggeration there, I don't see how you expand it out. You're still right there 5 feet from each other. So there's going to be an issue with crime. I know we'd hit our schools again, but I don't think we quite fully understand that yet because low-income housing, there's a lot of stuff going on there, so it's trials and tribulations. So but I know y'all got a big thing there. So, but another thing that confuses me is I understand you have, I'm not trying to, I need to ask this question. If once they approve this and then you do your studies, sir, I can't see your name, I'm sorry, I got my contacts in, but from an engineering standpoint, you go out and do your studies. Why don't we do the studies first to see what can be put on that place and then say, hey, no, 406 new units, we know can't happen. We just did this study. We can have 150 houses and that's it. If you can't do that, let's come back to the drawing board. Don't waste all of our time coming down here if we don't even know what can go on there first. Don't wait for them to propose something. Let's check it out and do it first. If we could, I'm not sure the process. I don't mean to degrade or anything. I'm just asking the process is. And I'll leave the other thing off. But thank y'all very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mixon. Is there anyone that has any information to add? Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Mabry.
I'm sorry, could I get you to speak that in the microphone?
My name is Mike Mabry. I live at 114 Wheelstone Way in Guyton, Georgia. I've been sitting here the whole time, and I moved out of Savannah for a specific reason, to get out of the city. I was a block captain, and we had a lot of problems with crime. We had neighborhoods that were so close to each other. We were caught between county and city. We kept trying to call the city council. It was just ongoing. We lived there 45 years, and I finally moved. I moved out here to Guyton for the very reason, to get out of the city. Number one, I feel like it's human warehousing. Number two, just like the gentleman said, we had problems with kids coming from other neighborhoods. I don't know what, our entry exit points were minimum, we were limited. And I just feel like, one, impact studies, I know you all know this, traffic studies, heavy traffic. I get up every morning, 5:30, and I get so aggravated, even before I get to work. The circles y'all build, I don't care, Highway 30 and Midland is getting to the point where people coming out of the woods. There's that many people that I didn't realize, and I thought Savannah was crowded. I feel like I'm back in Savannah again. I almost moved to North Georgia because I love the mountains, but I prefer Savannah, or the area. Guyton's got a beautiful area. We got plenty of nice folks around this area, and I like the quietness and the nature. I feel like it's being taken. I fought for our country for freedom, and I hate to see us disappear. And that's the only reason why I like the land I live on. I'm 70 years old, and I just want everybody to feel like they're a family out here, and that we've got a place to live without people living on top of us. And I had them living on top of us. I had vagrants coming in next door. I was in El Paso. We had illegal immigrants. I used to catch them all the time. And I hate to see this happen, where we can't control the difference between renting and owning. And that's what I'm worried about. And I just wish y'all would at least take into consideration, like if you overload land, most of the trees I've seen on Highway 30 in Midland have already been taken down. You can't regrow them. They're done. They're gone. That's why there's a lot of problems now. And y'all want to keep adding to it. I know you need some form of income and growth. I understand that. And our taxes, I keep going up. And I just feel like that's what I just want to leave you with. And just at least consider the possibility of reducing the amount, if you can't at least consider the areas around you.
Thank you, Mr. Mabry. Anyone with any additional information?
My name is David Richardson. I'm from the Marlowe community. I'm here on behalf of a lot of the younger generation who is at home taking care of their kids or trying to build a family. We're looking for land ourselves, and we can't find it because of this reason. We're trying to buy our own homes and our own land and establish something for ourselves like our grandparents and our parents did before us here in this county. Because we grew up here, and this is where we want to raise our children now. And we can't because we're stacked with subdivisions left and right. The traffic's back and forth. We've mentioned that. I saw something on the commissioner's Facebook the other day, the 911 calls that we're getting now. Low in March was 386 on a good day. On a high day, 538. The highest they've received in March was 720 calls. That's 911 calls. What happens when we put 600 homes at the end of Midland Road? The property taxes are increasing, the value's increasing, while the quality of life, it seems to be decreasing because we have nothing to ourselves anymore. We're sharing everything. One thing I just want everyone to think about is the tragedy of commons. This is a scientific experiment back in the 70s. Basically, it states that an economic and environmental science problem where individuals have access to a shared resource and act in their own interest at the expense of other individuals. This can result in overconsumption, underinvestment, and a depletion of resources. That's what we're looking at in this county right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Anyone with any additional information?
My name's Cindy Zipper Seconder, and yes, this is in my right in my yard, all of this. We went last year, like we said. I would really like this gentleman here to come with me on my side-by-side and go back there and look where they want to build. I can take you there, any of y'all, and let y'all see the water. And there's no way that you can build all them homes. Do you understand me? And the traffic. I'm not even gonna go into all that because I'm so disgusted with it. My grandparents, we have owned this land for over 200 years, all this land we have. Think about it. All of you, and all of you, the commissioners, all of you, would you like this in your yard? Because I am retired partly, and I want to stay here. But if they build this mess over here, there ain't no way 400 and some houses can be built in that swamp. And I'm serious. Think about it. We've got to think about our children. And God don't want this. I'm telling you. He does not want this. Think about it. And they just need to go away.
Thank you, Ms. Sechinger. Do you wish to?
My name is Bryant Legan. Thank you guys so much for being here this evening. I'm going to let Travis speak to the drainage and engineering. I think he could do it way better than I could. One thing I do know is obviously we have been here before, and we hosted a community meeting. We heard what folks had to say. One of those people we had at that meeting was a guy named Yancey Ford, school superintendent for Effingham County. And one of the things that he had mentioned in that meeting to everybody there was that he'd been planning for this growth a long time. And he felt the schools were prepared for him. And he's constantly looking to acquire and has acquired properties to accommodate that. So I do want to add that, and I believe that we'll reach out to him. Hopefully he'll show up to the council and speak to that note. I think one of the things that I do also want to address is the number of homes. It's hard not to take it personal. I live in a neighborhood like this because that's what my family can afford, and that's where we choose to live. And my kids love their neighbors. They play in the front yard, they play in the backyard, but most of the time they spend their area at the pocket park down the street, where I throw the football with them almost every single day. And so, I think there's one thing that we want to remember here is that these homes are going to put roofs over people's heads. And people want to live in Effingham County for many reasons, but one of those being the fact that it has great schools, it has a great community feel to it. And so I'm not looking to change that. What I am looking to is to provide opportunities for people to obtain that. As the community grows, there's as someone mentioned, there's going to be a need for more police force, more firemen, those type of nurses and teachers, and we've got to provide a place for everybody to live, right? And so I think I'll let Travis speak to the engineering. I just wanted to say a couple of those things. So again, thank you for your time tonight. I know it's been a long one, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Recognizing we are here for use tonight, but obviously drainage has been brought up. And the first time I looked at this property with Mr. Ligon, the first thing I thought was, man, this thing is going to be tough to develop. It's really low. It's really wet. We've got our challenge ahead of us. Our current land plan has got about 36 acres of pond proposed on it. Right now, we are engaged with a FEMA consultant who's doing the FEMA flood study for the area. So that area is in an undetermined zone. So one of the requirements is obviously to do a flood study. Some of the things that have come to light as a result of that flood study is that, Midland Road is basically a barrier that prevents the headwaters of St. Augustine Creek from draining. It only has one culvert underneath it. It's not maintained. It's half full of sediment. There's areas where other culverts need to be installed. The roadside ditches need to be maintained. These are all things that we can help with, right? As we go to develop our entrance and put our left and right turn lanes in, we can easily install new culverts underneath Midland Road to help alleviate the drainage issues that are happening in that area. We can clean ditches out. There's a lot of things we can do to be a partner to the community to help alleviate some of these issues that are happening out there. If not, they're just going to continue to go on like they are today. as far as traffic goes, we've done traffic studies. We know where the problems are. The county knows where the problems are. They'll have T-Splosh projects in place right now to improve the intersections at Highway 30 in Midland, as well as Blue Jay in Midland. And then we'll be required to put all of our left and right turn lanes in and everything to accommodate our traffic coming in and out of our development. And like I said, we're wanting to be good community neighbors. If there's improvements that we can do to help Effingham County and the drainage in that area, we're certainly willing to be a good party and participate in that and help with those improvements to alleviate some of those drainage issues.
All right, thank you, sir.
Will they maintain those after they're gone?
No.
Sorry, I shouldn't.
Hi. I'm Rachel Lundy. I live at 102 Unique Drive, and this is at the end of our road, which is private. I've heard everybody talk, and they've said the same thing all of us say. But I want to ask a question. I was reading the minutes from the last years, and you denied this. So my first question is, why are they back asking for it when it was denied? And also, it was rezoned to allow them to do, what, a sand pit or something? So they've already been given a usage for this land. And now they want to come back and they want to do something else, which is going to greatly impact everyone in this area.
So the industrial zoning was granted, but it had nothing to do with these gentlemen here tonight. And once you are denied a request, you have to wait 6 months?
Yes, sir.
You may have to wait 6 months, and then you can resubmit. I mean, that's your God-given right to show up here every 6 months if you want to.
Okay, so another question. If you approve it, why so many homes? Why do we not have, hey, this is your land, you have a right to use it, I'm libertarian, it's your private property. However, your impact on the rest of us is not okay, and it will impact us. It's already impacting us. The amount of time it took us just to get over here because of the traffic. We do not have the infrastructure, and I don't care, I don't want to hear anybody else say it, we have no infrastructure for this. And you just keep adding more homes, especially in our side of the county. Put them out here somewhere, but don't put them anymore up where we are. But why so many houses and no rentals? This is not a rental neighborhood. There should be not a single rental property anywhere in our area. We didn't buy our land and build our homes to be living next to a bunch of apartments. And I'm sorry, but we didn't. And you have to take into effect all of us. We live here. It's impacting us. Half-acre lots, setbacks. Go ahead, you can build that. But you don't get to put this massive project in our development, in our area. It's offensive that it's even being asked.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone have any additional information? Yes, ma'am.
Carol Nutter, 105 Wheelstone Way, Hunter's Mill.
This is our road.
Right there.
Maintained, and we were right there.
Question for you guys. You say you're gonna.
Because they told us when they.
Ma'am, would you
All right.
address
Well, they
the
say
board,
that
please?
they say that they're going to do all of this improvement. But a good question somebody had out there was, are they going to continue when there's a problem? Who's going to come and continue to maintain the water, the roads? Who's going to maintain all of that? And like everybody said, it's too many houses. I don't mind half-acre lots. We've got about a half-acre lot, and there's a good enough space in between, because if I have a fire in my house, my neighbor's house most likely won't burn down. But if you have it so close, all these houses are going to burn down. So I think, and then they're talking, you can talk semantics all you want. 460 houses, and then how many townhouses. It all accumulates to what they wanted in the beginning, close to the 540 or 50. So to me, I think it's ridiculous that they're coming back here and doing the same thing, and like everybody else has said. So my concern is fire, and are they going to continue to maintain all the stuff they say they're going to improve? who needs, because right now, the county should be maintaining all of the
So
drainage and
can
stuff.
I interrupt you? I mean, so the roads, the streets in this subdivision, all the utilities in the ground, the water and the sewer, will be built to county specifications, and at the end of the project, they will be deeded to the county, so it will be maintained by the county.
Okay, well, our stuff is not being maintained. The ponds that are on our roads now are not being maintained. A couple of years ago, our development flooded. It flooded, and people had water all over the place. And so somehow they got somebody out there, and if they had been maintaining that, that would have not happened. So, yeah, that's my problem, is if the county is supposed to do it, then they should be already doing it.
All right. Do you have anything additional?
That's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Dave, can I say, just on the drainage thing?
Sure.
Granted, I'm a landscape architect, not an engineer. I mean, there is an existing wetland system that flows through this area. There's no denying that. I mean, that's the drainage of our county has that consistently, and it's going to ebb and flow with rain. I don't know what neighborhood that was she was referring to. I was trying to follow it on there, but I would just ask folks when they look at older development plans and look at the subdivisions, there's not a stitch of open space in them. Every lot is a privately platted lot. The new smaller lot subdivisions have open space, commonly owned drainage areas, stormwater improvements that are required that simply were not required decades ago. So just wanted to clarify that. There are massive drainage improvements that are included with new development in our area because of the codes we have in the county.
Thank you. All right. Is there any additional information to come before this board? All right. I'm going to close public comment. Discussion. The board. Discussion.
Well, I'll throw it out there.
Go ahead.
My concern originally, my quote was read back to us. The one point of access is still a concern. I'm curious if there may be any clarification on that. I know we do have some existing large developments that already are served off of one point of access. So I know there's precedent for that already in the county. And then I just go back to the text, right? That there's requests for certain lot sizes, changes and reductions, but again, unless I couldn't find it in there wasn't the additional protection that we're getting back for those, and being buffers or being
Open
whatever
space.
else. There is discussion about the open space. In particular, this project does touch, actually touches not too great of number of adjacent properties, but it does have a big impact on their perimeter because it's got a lot of perimeter. So that buffer clarification is important to me. Curious what everybody else thinks.
So what was your opinion of the open space?
I think the percentage of open space, that's why I kind of started with before I started talking. I mean, there is a benefit to a plan that has, whether or not folks agree with it, smaller lots with more open space. I mean, that is something that's definitely proven to be not everybody's desire, but it is something that's, in my opinion, is desirable by some. So I thought the percentages of open space that they were proposing, to be honest, it was an improvement based off of the last plan we saw. That's the benefit of a PD versus the two straight zoning districts, in my opinion. But I would like to see more formality about the PD text itself related to what we're governing this PD with, assuming we even move forward with it in the first place.
I personally don't like the density of the project, and I'm probably going to vote against it.
All right. I mean, once again, the last time this was up, I mean, one of my biggest concerns was townhomes. We've put townhomes, scattered them out kind of through the county in places, but thus far, they've been on state highways. And, I have a big fear of opening that door to where, and I know, I know you can see Highway 30. I get it, but I still think it opens the door for future development of townhomes throughout. Once you open it up to county maintained, then Because our commissioners have not put any real parameters on where we're gonna do it. So, I mean, it's a big concern of mine. The other one is the density. I mean, I think we have R5, which in my opinion is dense. So that's my take. I don't see a lot of difference in what we saw last time.
Mr. Chair, would you like to share what R5 density is?
You can.
She can.
She can.
So
Just so they know.
R5 density
55,
is, so 5, you know what, let me just make sure before I say this wrong. Cause I wanna make sure it's not net, if it's net or gross density, but.
I think it's 1/6 of an acre and they're asking for less than 1/6.
So per the Effingham County zoning ordinance for R5, the maximum density, which is 5.17.3, minimum 0.15 acre lot with no more than 5 dwelling units per net usable acre.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll call for a motion. Make it.
I'll call for a motion, I'll make a motion for denial.
A motion for denial. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. All's in favor of denial? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So, this board is a recommendation board. I mean, as you know, been here before. Final decision will come with the county commissioners, and they may choose to agree with us, and they may not. So, good luck. Thank you for everybody, and a long but civil debate.
May 21st.
May 21st. May 20. I'm just kidding. Do we have anything else, ladies? Meeting adjourned.
Hey, somebody left a yellow. Sorry.